day, and we are heading back not to Florida. We're going to Chicago, because I am probably going to stay there this week for Palm Sunday. I'm going to stay there, not for Palm Sunday, but for all of Easter. And so we are driving back right now. We've got about 3 hours and 30 minutes left on the drive. I am driving straight to church because I'm probably going to arrive there by the time that church begins, which is at 2 p.m. So that worked out kind of swell. You know, I was supposed to wake up really early today, but I was kept awake by a discussion with someone I know about Christianity, and he was making all kinds of stupid claims. He was making a bunch of stupid claims, wherein, you know, gotta pull this out for the Sunday smoke. He was making all kinds of stupid claims, wherein he was saying that Christians do not need to believe that Jesus is God. Christians do not need to believe the Nicene Creed. And all kinds of stupid stuff. I don't know if he was just egging me on with certain things, but like, I thought it was a good conversation, but eventually it just devolved into him just using ChatGPT to look everything up and scrutinizing every single little thing that I did not get correct. So that's how that turned out. But otherwise, I mean, he said that at first there was only like 5 or 10 people at the Council of Nicaea. 318 bishops, by the way. And he said that the Bible doesn't teach that Jesus is God. Before Abraham was I am. What does Jesus mean when he says I am and uses the name of God? He said that the New Testament was written primarily in Hebrew, and then he looked it up, and it said that it was written in primarily 98 to 99% of it was written in, wouldn't you know, Greek, which is what I said. And he looked it up, and I'm quite literally, I don't know if he did this on purpose because he didn't want to concede the point or not. He said, well, look at ChatGPT. It says that 98% of the New Testament is written in Hebrew, and only 3% is written in Greek. And I'm like, are you doing this on purpose? You're quite literally flipping the what it was saying on ChatGPT. You know, so you can't tell a blind man. You can only tell a blind man which path to follow, and if he doesn't follow that path, that's on him. And then the craziest thing of the night that he said was that Gnosticism, Gnosis, the earliest Christian heresy, is a sect of Christianity. Like, dude, read the room, buddy. Gnosticism was quite literally prophesied about by the apostles of Jesus in their letters to the New Testament people, to the New Testament church, saying, beware of people who claim to have so-called false knowledge, and beware of those who say that Jesus did not come in the flesh. The New Testament quite literally warns against this prophetically, because Gnosticism really develops completely in like the 2nd century. Christian, it's a part of Orthodox Christianity. It's a part of the one true and Catholic Apostolic Church. Oh my gosh, and every time I brought up Catholicity, this guy started, it was like, Roman Catholicism, Roman Catholicism. No, dude, there's two different words that can be applied here. There's Roman Catholicism, and then there is Catholicism. Catholicism just means universal. And Roman Catholicism is almost like an oxymoron because it's the universal church based in Rome. That's not the universal church. And that's not the universal church that is spoken of in the is it the Apostles' Creed? When it says that we believe in one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church, I think it's Apostle Creed. Yeah. So this guy doesn't even know how to make a distinction in words. Just to show my point even more, and he did the same exact thing when I said the Orthodox Church or Orthodoxy. He's like, the Orthodox Church, and I'm like, no, there's the Orthodox Church, and then there is orthodoxy, right thinking, right teaching. There's a difference in the words, in the use of the words. But like some people, they think so single-mindedly and one-dimensionally that they can't understand that the same word could be used to refer to different things. When you can't understand simple things like that, it's quite hard to have a conversation with people because they also have like TikTok reel brain where they forget what was spoken of in the conversation 30 seconds ago. So you have to keep clarifying every time you say something like that. And this guy just goes on and he's like, the Gnostics are Christians, and it's like, no, they're not. They are not Christians. In fact, there is a whole treatise that Irenaeus wrote. Irenaeus or Ignatius? I think Irenaeus wrote, wherein he speaks on and exposits the whole view of the Gnostic system. And he explains why it is a heresy, why it is heretical. Because one of the main things that the Gnostics believe is that Jesus did not come down as a human being. He only appeared to be a human being. And, yeah. I mean, and then I said, like, he's like, when did Gnosticism come into being? And I was like, under the Roman Empire. And he's like, Gnosis is a Greek word. It was developed by the Greeks. And I'm like, no. Gnosticism arose in the 1st and 2nd centuries. The Romans spoke Greek so they were able to use the word gnosis, because the Romans pretty much stole everything from the Greeks. So they were able to use the word gnosis in their development of this thought. And really, Gnosticism drew from Jewish thought, it drew from Hellenistic Greek thought, and of course it sprinkled in Christianity in there because that was the thing to do at the time when you were creating a new heresy, is you sprinkle Christianity in there. And yeah, you have all this stuff where like he's just making all these unfounded claims. Like he was saying that the Gospel of Thomas was found with the Dead Sea Scrolls, which the Dead Sea Scrolls were like 600 years before, maybe 600 or 800 years before, I don't want to be wrong with my numbers, before Jesus even became a man, before Jesus was even born. So how do they have a gospel about Jesus with Old Testament texts that, sure, they prophesy about Jesus, but there are no New Testament texts in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And then he was like, oh, because I had to look it up for him. He was like, oh, no, I meant the Nag Hammadi Library. And I was like, okay, well, the Nag Hammadi Library is a cesspool of Gnostic writing. The Gospels were not found in the Nag Hammadi Library. What was found in the Nag Hammadi Library were a bunch of Gnostic texts. And yeah, so this guy was just taking an L after L. But like, this is what happens when you get like a little bit of information and you think that you become like a what is it called? Expert on the topic. You get this false sense of confidence where, you know, you just think you could just, anything you say is correct. And then when you get fact checked, you kind of just shell up and become like you go to the next topic. You shift the goalpost. And then he's like, the Bible has been translated so many times, you can't understand what the Bible is saying. And he would say that in 1 second, and then the next second he would be like, let's see what the Bible says about this. Well, you can't use a freaking you can't use that standard as a that's having a double standard. You can't use what you just said is mistranslated throughout history, which it's not. We get the translations of our Bibles today from the original language in which the scriptures were written in. You can't say that they are corrupt or they are mistranslated and then get evidence, get your evidence from that same source. That is a double standard. That is a fallacy. And the guy just, I mean, it was just kind of sad because he would go quiet for like a minute, and he would be typing something into ChatGPT. Hold on, I'm going to need to pause here for a couple seconds because I got to pay this toll, I think. Do I? No, I don't think so. I think iPass applies to Easy Pass. We'll see. Yeah, so this Egypt doesn't know what he's talking about, but when you like say things confidently, it makes people like side with you or think that what you are saying is correct, but that is not the case. You can say anything confidently, and someone who doesn't know anything about the subject will take your side or be like, this guy is making good points. What else did he say? He said a bunch of stupid stuff that I just can't get to think about. I don't know. I stood up all night. I stood up till like 4 a.m. talking to this guy about this stuff. What else? Oh, you know, like he would talk about like stupid stuff about like, the Bible, the God of the Old Testament is not the same God of the New Testament. Okay, buddy, well, you don't believe in the Bible anyway, so why does that matter to you? Yeah, I mean, the dude was quite literally saying stuff like Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons were Christians. Like, this is a joke, dude. The 40,000 denominations thing, idiot. There are 3 anyone could sign up to be a part of that denomination list, and it's just kind of, retarded. Yeah, this guy was just like, it was kind of sad, because he would just, like I was saying, he would just go silent for like a minute, and he'd be typing something into ChatGPT, and it'd just be a new point, shifting the goalpost, because he can't defend his false views. Facile? Is facile a good word? Facile views? His flaccid views. Yeah, his views are flaccid. His opinions, his positions have ED. So I needed to give him in this instance, the blue pill was the one to take for him, because he needed to get that thing up when he was trying to make good arguments, or when he was trying to make his arguments. But he took the blue pill anyways, because he was like, I'm gonna stay here and be part of this delusion wherein I get to be my own God and do whatever I want. And he's like, I asked him actually how many documented Gnostics are there today, and he looked it up, and it was 100,000 to like a couple billion. Loser. And that includes like Roman Catholics and Eastern Orthodox, but I'm okay with that. I like those people. I'm okay with those people. I think they're wrong, but if you believe in the triune God and you believe in, look, those systems embellish the gospel. I think they almost pervert the gospel, and so if you don't believe that Christ is your only hope in this life, then that's a problem. But if you believe that Christ is your only hope in this life, and that your faith in Him is that which saves you, I'm okay with you, But it needs to be the right Jesus, because there are many Christs. The Bible speaks of many Christs. There are false Christs, and there is the true Christ. That's what I mean when I say the Bible says there are many Christs. There is the Christ of the Scriptures, who is God in human flesh, God who enveloped Himself in human flesh and lived as a man on this earth for 33 years, sinlessly, and died on the cross for the sins of the world, rose again from the dead and ascended into heaven, and is now seated at the right hand of the Father, wherein He awaits to come in judgment. And then there is the Jesus who only appeared to be a man, or the Jesus who only is a man, or the Jesus who is only a prophet, and none of those are good enough. None of those can save you from your sin. And if you worship any of those types of Jesus, you are committing sin, because first, it's a wrong Jesus. Second, the Bible says that you shall not worship anything other than God, and Jesus is rendered worship in the New Testament everywhere. If you worship anything but the true Jesus, it's over. It's kind of over for you. It's kind of over. I thought that was a pretty fun time. I like having conversations like that, because it kind of tests my knowledge, and I'm able to, refine my understanding of certain things. But yeah, when you're dealing with someone who has to look everything up for what they're talking about, when they have to Google stuff, it's kind of sad, because they just kind of sit there in silence when you make a point, and they have to look up everything for to establish their point. And of course, ChatGPT is made by a gay Jew, so what are you gonna trust that? Not me. I'm not gonna trust that. I'll trust it to give me the measurements of something, or tell me how something is made, but especially with the Christian belief and stuff like that, no, dude, I'm not gonna trust that. yourself. You need to look into yourself, man. That's where you find, like, you need to look into yourself. That's where you find the light. That's where you find peace. And I'm like, if you look into yourself, you will implode. You will collapse. You need to find the light, bro. That's what the Gnosticism teaches. You need to work towards being the light. So you need to consume things that are full of light. You need to be a vegetarian. Can't eat meat. You have to poop a certain way. I think you have to poop a certain way in Gnosticism. But yeah, I mean, why would you be in a system that has like this hierarchical structure wherein there are people who are in the know, there are people who have gnosis, who, what is it called? Hold back information from the laity and do not allow them to understand the mysteries of the system. And there's this constant progression towards reaching this wisdom that is never attainable because most of it is crap. And unlike that, Christianity, but this is the point I made, this was the good thing about the Protestant Reformation, because Christianity, I'm sure, and it definitely did, not I'm sure, I know, it had that kind of perversion as we get into, especially the, medieval times, with the Pope and the priests and the sacerdotal priesthood, and their being better than the laity, being the only ones who can read scripture, being the only ones who could take the sacraments, while the laity were there being starved of their spiritual food. But with the Protestant Reformation and Martin Luther, you get this revived view of, no, everyone is holy, from the, shoemaker to the priest. Everyone is holy. Each person's vocation is a holy vocation from God. There is nothing that distinguishes the priest or the elder from the from the layman, and all are able to understand the knowledge of God and the mysteries of Christianity, unlike something like Gnosticism. Like every kind of cult or heresy has that kind of thing. Is like there are a certain people who are this aristocratic, like high caste people group. Like, Jehovah's Witnesses, they have the 144,000, and it's like those are the only people who are going to heaven. So what else is everyone else, and what else is everyone doing? Like why are you even what is it called, a part of that? It's so that was the start to my Sunday morning night into the morning, Saturday night into Sunday morning. Yeah, I thought it was pretty fun. I had a good time. I don't have any hard feelings because I don't get, my feelings aren't hurt by the opinions of people. The opinions of people do not bother me. And so, I'm not gonna, let this Dirk who can't, put a coherent argument together by himself and has to use ChatGPT and Google to make his points for me under the guise of fact checking. Yeah, what are you, like a liberal dude? You're gonna fact check me every moment? And so, yeah. But, I mean, it all just devolves into, liberal stuff, because anything that is not the true Christian religion is fake and gay. And I'm not gonna, what is it called? And
your religion. You don't live up to your religion. You're a bad Christian.
Well, yeah. I mean, pretty much. Like, how can I live up to the glorious standard, the perfect standard of the God of the Bible? That is the whole reason why I put my faith in the one who is able to fulfill all that stuff on my part. Because I can't do that stuff, and because I love, making, jokes and saying stuff that I probably shouldn't. But I'm human. Like, of course I want to please God, but it's pretty hard, considering that I love doing sinful things. That I love, doing things that are gonna benefit me in the end, to my own disappointment and to my own, folly. But that's just the story of every person throughout history who has, put their faith in God. So, yeah, I don't know what he really was trying to get at with that. Like, I mean, if you are a Gnostic, why are you not only eating vegetables? Vegetables contain light. They're going to get you closer to the light. You should be a vegetarian. You should be a vegan. You gotta go full freaking vegan. Yeah. So, and like, one of the big things he brought up was like, oh, why does God allow death? Why does God allow babies to die? And it's like, dude, you think I have answers to all of the deepest mysteries that Christians have been trying to parse out throughout history? No, man. I'm 23 years old, dude. I mean, I'm still trying to deal with my own stuff, bro. I'm trying to figure that stuff out too. I'm trying to figure out why God makes me go through stuff. I'm trying to figure out, like, I'm sure Job was trying to figure out, like, I'm sure Job was like, man, what is going on? Why is God doing this? And of course, that's exactly what he was saying. But then God, in the last 2 chapters of the book of Job, is like, answer me, you creature of mine. And what did Job do? He put his hand on his mouth and he's like, I will speak once, and maybe I'll speak again, but then I will cover my mouth with my hand and say nothing more. Because when you realize that God is the infinite one, his purposes are far more than anything you could ever understand. And you just got to be like, to God be the glory, To God be the glory, and God knows best. He knows better than you or me. What am I going to put my trust in a system that offers no reprieve for me from that kind of stuff? No. I can believe in Christianity and, not know what God's will is for my life, and still understand that his purposes are better than mine. I mean, what do you think Moses thought when God said that he was not going to be able to enter the promised land, dude? Like, I'm sure Moses was like, because, dude, he spent 40 years in the wilderness with those people, and he was probably like, man, I am so looking forward to getting let's see, was he from the tribe of Levi? Yeah. And Levites must have gotten, they get the fat portions and stuff like that. They must have had good lives, man. He was like, man, I'm getting ready to look out on that coastal view, chill out on my hammock, and be done, not have to deal with these people anymore. And then he hit that rock, he struck that rock instead of speaking to it. And God was like, no, not in my house. And he was like, you are not entering the promised land, but I'll let you see it. And Moses was probably like, bruh. But you know, Moses still remained faithful. Moses still, you know, still, it's so funny, dude. Like, you see these people in the Old Testament, and like something happens that they're not happy with, and they're like, I just want to die. Kill me already, God. And God just looks at them and he's like, you silly little boy. Like with Jonah, he's like, you silly little boy. You silly little boy. I'm gonna grow a big plant to give you shade, and then I'm gonna send a worm to eat the plant, and you will be out in the beating sun. And Jonah was just like, Jonah cared more about the freaking plant than the people of Nineveh. That was a D1 racist right there, dude. He knew game, you know? But, you know, God still used him. And he was like, you silly little boy, my plans are not, you know, you're still part of my plan as of yet. And so you will live. And I wonder if Jonah lived long enough to, you know, I don't know. Definitely not see that Nineveh fall, because that guy would have probably thrown a party. Because, you know, God did save